Captain Kim Soo-jin adjusted her dark blue uniform as she walked through the gleaming marble corridors of the Galactic Council headquarters on Nexus Prime. The massive structure stretched toward the purple sky, its crystal spires catching the light of 3 different suns. Alien delegates from dozens of worlds bustled past her, some floating on anti-gravity platforms, others walking on 6 legs, and a few that looked like living crystals that chimed when they moved. 3 days of non-stop meetings had left her exhausted, but she kept her shoulders straight and her expression neutral. Earth's reputation depended on it. For 3 long years, humanity had been pouring everything they had into the Council's Mutual Defense Initiative. Ships, soldiers, weapons, even their most advanced technology. The humans believed they were finally earning their place among the stars, proving they belonged in this galactic community. Soo-jin remembered the pride she felt when Earth was first invited to join. Humanity had barely reached beyond their own solar system when the Council arrived with their massive ships and promises of protection. The galaxy was dangerous, they explained. The Kethmar Empire was expanding, consuming worlds and enslaving entire species. Only by working together could the free world survive. Earth had jumped at the chance. Human engineers worked around the clock to build the ships the Council requested. Young men and women volunteered for military service, eager to fight alongside. Alien warriors against a common enemy. Families sacrificed as resources were redirected from civilian projects to military production. Everyone believed they were building something greater than themselves. Now, as Soo-jin walked past a group of tall, blue-skinned Zephyrians discussing battle formations, she wondered if it had all been worth it. The council meetings were becoming more secretive. Human representatives were being excluded from important decisions. Something felt wrong. During the afternoon recess, while other delegates gathered in the Crystal Gardens, Soo-jin slipped away to her quarters. The small room overlooked the bustling spaceport, where ships from 100 worlds came and went. She activated her personal communication device and accessed the restricted council channels, using codes she had memorized weeks ago. Her blood turned to ice as she read the intercepted messages. The first transmission was from Council Chairman Veltar to his military advisors. Human casualties in Sector 7 are acceptable. Their primitive tactics serve our purposes well as frontline shock troops. The second message made her hands shake. Kethmar negotiations proceeding smoothly. They have agreed to spare core council worlds in exchange for human territories and defensive protocols. The third message was the worst. Earth's exact coordinates and defense grid specifications have been transmitted to Kethmar Command. Phase 1 of the surrender agreement is complete. Soo-jin stared at the screen, her mind struggling to process what she was reading. The Council hadn't been preparing to fight the Kethmar Empire. They had been negotiating a surrender deal all along. Humanity wasn't earning their place in the galactic community. They were being sold out as part of a peace treaty. Every human soldier who had died in the Outer Rim battles, every family that had sacrificed for the war effort, every resource Earth had poured into the Council's military machine, it had all been a lie. Humans were never meant to be partners. They were meant to be sacrifices. Her communication device beeped with an incoming priority message. Soo-jin's heart pounded as she read it. All human representatives are to be detained immediately pending transfer to Kethmar custody. Use of force is authorized. She could hear heavy footsteps in the corridor outside. The distinctive hum of energy weapons charging up filled the air. Soo-jin grabbed her emergency kit and moved to the window. 3 floors below, Council security forces in their black armor were surrounding the building. Their plasma rifles glowed with deadly energy. The footsteps stopped outside her door. Someone was trying to override the lock. Soo-jin activated her wrist communicator and began recording. This is Captain Kim Soo-jin of the Earth Defense Corps. If anyone receives this message, know that the Galactic Council has betrayed humanity. We are not their allies. We are their sacrifice to the Kethmar Empire. They have our coordinates, they have our defense codes. Earth is in danger. The door exploded inward in a shower of sparks and molten metal. Security forces poured in, their weapons raised. But Soo-jin was already gone, having slipped through the maintenance shaft that connected to the building's waste disposal system. She crawled through the narrow passages, as energy blasts scorched the walls behind her. The alien voices grew fainter as she made her way toward the underground transport tunnels. Her small scout ship was docked in Bay 94, just 3 kilometers away. If she could reach it, she might have a chance to warn Earth. Sujin emerged from a drainage grate near the spaceport just as alarms began wailing across Nexus Prime. Searchlights swept the area as security forces spread out to hunt for her. She sprinted between the massive landing struts of alien cargo ships, plasma bolts lighting up the night around her. Her scout ship, Soul's Dawn, sat exactly where she had left it. Sujin dove into the cockpit and fired up the engines without running through the safety checks. The small vessel lifted off just as security forces surrounded the landing pad, their energy weapons painting the hull with deadly light. The Soul's Dawn shuddered violently as it dropped out of hyperspace, sparks flying from damaged control panels. Sujin gripped the pilot's seat as warning lights bathed the cockpit in angry red. Her small scout ship had taken severe damage during the escape from Nexus Prime, and the hyperspace jump had pushed the engines beyond their limits. Through the cracked viewport, she could see the familiar blue marble of Earth still days away. But behind her, somewhere in the swirling chaos of hyperspace, the Kethmar invasion fleet was coming. The intercepted Council messages had been clear. Earth had maybe 72 hours before alien warships would arrive to claim their prize. Sujin's hands moved across the communication array, bypassing the damaged primary systems to reach the emergency broadcast network. Every human colony, every outpost, every ship needed to hear this warning. The galaxy had betrayed them, but humanity still had a chance if they acted fast. "This is Captain Kim Sujin of the Earth Defense Corps," she began, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. "Emergency Priority Alpha. The Galactic Council has betrayed humanity. They have been using our forces as expendable troops while secretly negotiating surrender with the Kethmar Empire. Earth's coordinates and defense protocols have been given to the enemy. This is not a drill. All human forces must withdraw from Council space immediately." The message transmitted across dozens of frequencies, racing through subspace toward every corner of human space. On mining platforms in the asteroid belt, workers stopped their drilling operations to listen. On colony ships heading toward distant stars, families gathered around communication screens. On military bases scattered across the outer rim, soldiers looked at each other with growing understanding. Admiral Park Min-ho was reviewing tactical reports in his command center aboard the battleship Soul's Pride when the transmission reached him. The massive vessel was currently stationed at Kepler 442, part of what the Council dismissively called Earth's training squadron. The alien powers had always looked down on human military technology, calling it primitive and inefficient compared to their advanced energy weapons and shield systems. Park was a veteran of the Rim Wars, where human forces had been thrown into the deadliest battles against Kethmar advanced scouts. He had watched good soldiers die, while Council forces stayed safely in the rear, providing tactical support. The Admiral had always suspected something was wrong with their so-called alliance, but this revelation was worse than his darkest fears. "Sir, we're receiving similar reports from all human commanders," reported his communications officer, Lieutenant Yoon Hai-rin. "Captain Rodriguez at Alpha Centauri Station, Commander Thompson at the Jupiter Defense Platform, Major Kim at Titan Base. Everyone's getting the same message." Park stood up slowly, his weathered face hardening with determination. Around him, the bridge crew waited for orders. These men and women had served faithfully in what they believed was humanity's first galactic war. Now they knew they had been fighting for those who planned to destroy their home. "Send immediate recall orders to all human assets," Park commanded. "Every ship, every soldier, every piece of equipment we have scattered across Council space. I want them heading home within the hour." "Admiral, that will leave entire sectors without human support," warned his tactical officer, Commander Lee. Jin Woo. "The Council forces won't be able to hold those positions alone." "That's their problem now," Park replied coldly. "They wanted to sacrifice us. Let them learn what it means to fight without human courage backing them up." Across the galaxy, human forces began their quiet exodus. The Council had made a critical mistake in their calculations. They saw humanity's military as primitive, because human ships didn't have the elegant curves of Zephyrian vessels or the crystal matrices of Veltarian technology. Human weapons fired simple projectiles instead of exotic energy beams. Human soldiers wore basic armor instead of powered exoskeletons. What the alien powers failed to understand was that humans built their technology for one purpose: to work when everything else failed. While alien ships shut down when their delicate energy systems were damaged, human vessels kept fighting with backup mechanical controls. When sophisticated alien weapons overheated in prolonged battles, human projectile weapons kept firing. On the mining station orbiting Proxima Centauri, Chief Engineer Choi Sung-min received the recall order while repairing the main fusion reactor. The facility provided rare metals essential for Council ship construction. Within hours, human workers were boarding the last transport ships, leaving behind mining equipment worth billions of credits. "Are we really abandoning everything?" asked his assistant, a young woman named Park So-young. Choi looked back at the facility they had built with their own hands, then at the stars where Earth waited. "We're not abandoning anything. We're going home to protect what really matters." Similar scenes played out across dozens of worlds. Human agricultural colonies that fed Council forces packed up their equipment. Human medical teams treating alien wounded departed their hospitals. Human technicians maintaining critical infrastructure simply walked away from their posts. The galaxy's powers were too focused on their own politics to notice the pattern. Here and there, a few alien commanders noted that their human support staff seemed to be requesting transfers, but no one connected the individual departures to a larger movement. Admiral Park watched the tactical display as green dots representing human ships converged on Sol system from every direction. What the Council saw as a primitive training fleet was revealing its true nature. These weren't outdated warships. They were the products of human engineering at its finest. Built tough, maintained perfectly, and crewed by people who knew how to win impossible battles. The Sol's Pride led a formation of 12 heavy cruisers toward Earth, their hulls scarred from battles the Council had forgotten. Behind them came destroyers, frigates, and support vessels, all heading home to defend the world that had given them life. "Sir, we're detecting unusual activity in the Outer Rim," reported the sensor operator. "Kethmar fleet movements, heading towards Sol system." Captain Kim was right about the timeline. Park nodded grimly. The betrayers and their new masters were coming, but they would find Earth ready, defended not by naive allies but by humanity unleashed. The Kethmar invasion fleet materialized at the edge of the Sol system like a swarm of metallic locusts. 47 massive dreadnoughts dropped out of hyperspace, their dark hulls bristling with weapon arrays that had conquered dozens of worlds. Behind them came smaller cruisers and support vessels, over 200 ships in total. The fleet's commander, War Chieftain Vexmore, studied the tactical display with satisfaction. According to the Galactic Council's intelligence reports, Earth possessed only a handful of primitive vessels and some basic orbital defenses. The human homeworld should fall within hours, its population ready for processing into the Empire's slave labor force. The Council had promised that humanity would offer no significant resistance. Vexmore was about to discover how wrong the Council had been. Captain Lee Da-eun watched the enemy fleet approach from her command station aboard defense platform Sejong, one of 12 massive orbital fortresses surrounding Earth. The platforms had been disguised as civilian space stations for years, their true nature hidden from Council inspectors who visited the system. What appeared to be simple cargo handling facilities were actually the most advanced weapons platforms humanity had ever built. "Enemy fleet holding formation at 4 million kilometers, reported her tactical officer, Lieutenant Han Subin. "They're running active scans of our defenses." Da-eun smiled coldly. "Let them scan. The Kethmar would see exactly what the Council expected them to see: a few outdated patrol ships and some civilian installations. They had no idea that Earth's real defenses were hidden in plain sight. "All platforms, this is command," Da-eun transmitted on the secure channel. "Remember, these are the beings who plan to enslave our families. Every shot we fire today is for every human they plan to sacrifice." The response came back from 11 other platform commanders, their voices steady and determined. Captain Kim Woo-jin from Platform Busan, Commander Park Yoon-ji from Platform Incheon, Major Choi Dae-ho from Platform Daegu, all ready to show the galaxy what human engineering could accomplish when survival was at stake. The Kethmar fleet began its final approach, confident in their overwhelming numbers. Vexmore had destroyed Earth's primitive patrol ships with barely a thought, swatting aside the few vessels that tried to intercept his force. Now only the planet itself lay before him, defended by what his sensors showed as 12 civilian space stations. "Begin planetary bombardment," he ordered, settling back in his command throne. This would be over quickly. The first wave of Kethmar dreadnoughts opened fire, their plasma cannons lighting up space with deadly energy. But instead of defenseless targets, they found themselves facing something no alien power had ever encountered: human military technology designed without concern for appearances or alien approval. Platform Sejong dropped its disguise in a burst of electromagnetic interference. The civilian cargo modules fell away like discarded clothing, revealing the true structure beneath. Massive railguns emerged from hidden compartments, their magnetic coils already charging with power that could crack a moon. Point defense systems, unfolded like mechanical flowers, tracking dozens of incoming missiles simultaneously. Dayun's fingers danced across her control panel as she brought the platform's main weapon online. The railgun was a masterpiece of human engineering. No exotic materials, no delicate energy matrices, just raw kinetic force delivered with surgical precision. "Target acquired," announced her weapons officer. "Kethmar command ship. Bearing 27 Mark 4. "Fire," Dayun commanded. The railgun spoke with thunder that shook the entire platform. A tungsten projectile the size of a telephone pole accelerated to 15% of light speed in less than a second. It crossed the 4 million kilometers to its target in 20 seconds, striking the Kethmar dreadnought with the force of a small nuclear weapon. The alien ship's shields, designed to deflect energy weapons, offered no protection against solid matter moving at relativistic speeds. The projectile punched through the hull like it was made of paper, its kinetic energy tearing the massive vessel apart from the inside. Across Earth's orbital defense grid, 11 other platforms revealed their true nature. What the Kethmar had expected to be a quick massacre became a nightmare of coordinated destruction. Human weapons, built for maximum effectiveness rather than elegant appearance, proved devastatingly superior to alien technology that prioritized form over function. Commander Park Yoon-ji's platform launched a swarm of guided missiles, each one equipped with simple but reliable targeting systems that couldn't be jammed by Kethmar electronic warfare. The missiles wove through space like angry hornets, their conventional warheads punching through alien armor with brutal efficiency. Major Choi Dae-ho coordinated the point defense network, his laser arrays cutting through incoming enemy missiles like a sword through silk. The lasers were old technology by galactic standards, but they worked perfectly every time, unlike the sophisticated alien weapons that overheated or shut down under stress. The battle lasted only 47 minutes. When the electromagnetic interference cleared, the space around Earth was filled with drifting wreckage and frozen alien corpses. Of the Kethmar's mighty invasion fleet, only 3 ships managed to escape into hyperspace, their hulls scarred and their crews traumatized by what they had witnessed. But humanity's greatest victory wasn't the destruction of the enemy fleet. It was the capture of 2 intact Kethmar vessels, their crews unconscious from life support failures, but their computer systems fully operational. Lieutenant Han Subin led the boarding party onto the first captured ship, a heavy cruiser called the Bone Render. The alien technology was impressive but poorly understood by its users. The Kethmar had inherited most of their advanced systems from conquered species, never truly mastering the principles behind them. "Captain, you need to see this," Han transmitted from the enemy ship's computer core. "Their entire fleet coordination protocol, their base locations, their command structure, it's all here. And there's something else, records of every council, world that collaborated with them." Dayun studied the captured data with growing amazement. The Kethmar Empire was powerful, but not as advanced as they pretended. Most of their technology was stolen, their tactics predictable, their leadership arrogant. More importantly, the files revealed every detail of their partnership with the Galactic Council. Earth now knew everything about their enemies, both the ones who had tried to invade and the ones who had betrayed them. The galaxy's powers had expected humanity to die quietly, sacrificed for the greater good. Instead, they had armed their future destroyers with everything they needed to know. As the captured Kethmar ships were towed toward Earth's shipyards for study, Da-Un looked out at the wreckage-strewn space around her world. The invasion was over, but the war was just beginning. Humanity had been betrayed, attacked, and marked for extinction. Now it was time to return the favor. Admiral Park Min-ho stood on the bridge of the Soul's Pride, gazing out at the largest human fleet ever assembled. The massive viewing screen showed hundreds of warships arranged in perfect formation, sleek, destroyers, powerful cruisers, and the new dreadnoughts built using captured Kethmar technology. What had started as Earth's primitive training squadron had transformed into something the galaxy had never seen before. The shipyards of Luna, Mars, and the asteroid belt had worked around the clock for 3 months, combining human engineering with alien innovations. The result was devastating. Human vessels now carried the firepower of Kethmar dreadnoughts, but retained the reliability and toughness that made human technology superior. Every ship bristled with weapons that could punch through any defense the galaxy could offer. "Fleet status report," Park commanded, his voice carrying across the command deck. "All vessels report ready for combat operations," replied his fleet. Coordinator Captain Kim Tae-young. 437 ships total, including the new hybrid battleships. Every crew has been briefed on the mission parameters. Park nodded, then activated the fleet-wide communication system. Throughout the Armada, thousands of human faces looked up from their stations to hear their commander's words. These were men and women who had served faithfully in the galactic community, only to discover that their supposed allies had planned their extinction. 3 months ago, we learned the truth about our place in this galaxy, Park began, his voice steady but filled with cold anger. The Galactic Council used us as expendable troops while secretly negotiating to hand over our homeworld to our enemies. They tried to sacrifice us for their own comfort and safety. On the bridge of the destroyer Daegu's Revenge, Commander Lee Jae-sung listened with his crew. They had lost friends in the Rim Wars, believing they were fighting for galactic freedom. Now they knew those deaths had been meaningless to their alien allies. "Today we begin the reckoning," Park continued. "The galaxy will learn what they have unleashed. They wanted to sacrifice humanity. Now they'll discover why that was the worst mistake they could have made." The first target was the Kethmar Industrial Complex at Vex Prime, a massive manufacturing world where the alien empire built their warships. Intelligence gathered from the captured vessels revealed that the planet was lightly defended, its leaders believing that humanity had been destroyed in the failed invasion of Earth. Commander Choi Hyun-woo led the assault force aboard the hybrid battleship Incheon's Fury. The vessel was a marvel of combined human and alien engineering, its hull built with human durability standards, its weapons systems enhanced with Kethmar energy technology, and its control systems designed with human tactical thinking. Approaching. "Vex Prime," reported his navigation officer, Lieutenant Yang Min-seo. "Enemy defense platforms are coming online. They're trying to raise orbital shields." Choi smiled grimly. The Kethmar had designed their defenses to stop energy weapons and guided missiles, the standard armaments of galactic warfare. They had never faced human kinetic weapons moving at near light speed. "All ships, commence bombardment," Choi ordered. The human fleet opened fire with devastating precision. Railguns launched tungsten rods that struck the orbital platforms with the force of meteors, shattering their shields and tearing through their armor. The Kethmar had never encountered weapons that simply ignored their defensive systems. Within minutes, the planet's industrial complexes were burning. Massive factories that had produced warships for centuries were reduced to twisted metal and flame. The shipyards where Kethmar dreadnoughts were built collapsed into the planet's atmosphere, their construction frames melting in the heat of human plasma bombs. But Choi's mission wasn't just destruction, it was communication. As the planet burned beneath them, He activated the fleet's long-range transmitters and sent a message across the galaxy. Every council world, every alien government, every species that had participated in humanity's betrayal would receive the same broadcast. The transmission showed Vex Prime's industrial heart transformed into a field of fire and wreckage. Kethmar. Escape pods fled the dying world as human ships methodically destroyed everything of military value. The message was simple but clear. "This is Commander Choi Hyun-woo of the human fleet." His voice echoed across dozens of star systems. "To the Galactic Council and all who betrayed us. You sold us out to our enemies. You used us as expendable troops while planning our extinction. This is what you have created. This is what your betrayal has unleashed." The broadcast reached the Council chambers on Nexus Prime, where alien delegates watched in horror as one of the galaxy's major industrial worlds was systematically destroyed. The elegant Zephyrians with their blue skin and crystal ornaments stared at the screens in shock. The multi-limbed Veltarians chimed in distress as their crystalline bodies flickered with fear. Chairman Veltar, the same alien who had signed humanity's death warrant, felt his three hearts racing as he watched the destruction. "How is this possible?" he whispered. "Our intelligence said the humans were primitive, their technology inferior." "Perhaps our intelligence was wrong," replied his military advisor, a tall creature with insectoid features and glowing compound eyes. "These weapons, they're not using our standard technologies. They're using something else, something we don't understand." On the bridge of the Soul's Pride, Admiral Park received updates from attack fleets across Kethmar space. Every major military installation was being systematically destroyed. The alien empire that had threatened the galaxy for centuries was being dismantled piece by piece, but this was just the beginning. The real targets weren't the Kethmar. They were simply the first to fall. The true enemy was the Galactic Council itself, the collection of species that had decided humanity was expendable. "Sir, we're receiving surrender offers from 17 Kethmar worlds," reported Captain Kim. "They're asking for mercy, promising to abandon their expansion plans." Park considered this for a moment, then shook his head. "Denied. They chose to partner with those who betrayed us. They were willing to accept Earth's destruction as payment for their peace. They made their choice." The galaxy was beginning to understand a fundamental truth about humanity that the Council had missed. Other species saw warfare as a necessary evil, something to be avoided when possible. They built their militaries for defense and deterrence, hoping never to use them at full capacity. Humans were different. Humans had perfected warfare as an art form. They studied it, planned for it, and when necessary, executed it with a precision that terrified their enemies. Every human soldier was trained not just to fight, but to win completely and decisively. As news of Vex Prime's destruction spread across the galaxy, alien governments began to realize what they were facing. This wasn't a desperate counterattack by a dying species. This was a carefully planned campaign of retribution by beings who understood war better than any other species in the galaxy. The betrayal of humanity hadn't weakened Earth's children. It had freed them from the moral constraints of their former alliance. Now they were no longer fighting as part of a galactic community with rules and limitations. They were fighting as humanity unleashed, and the galaxy would burn until every betrayer paid the price for their treachery. 6 months after the first strike on Vex Prime, the Kethmar Empire no longer existed. Their homeworld was a blackened husk orbiting a dying star, its once proud cities reduced to radioactive glass. Their fleet was scattered wreckage floating in the void, and their surviving population had fled to the furthest corners of the galaxy, carrying tales of human fury that would be whispered for generations. But Admiral Park Min-ho wasn't finished. The Kethmar had been tools of destruction, nothing more. The real architects of humanity's betrayal still lived in their crystal palaces and floating cities, believing they were safe behind their diplomatic immunity and ancient treaties. Captain. Song Ji-hai stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Busan's Wrath, watching as another world burned beneath her fleet. Zephyr Prime had been one of the Council's founding worlds, home to the blue-skinned beings who prided themselves on their ancient wisdom and diplomatic skills. Their floating cities had drifted through the clouds for thousands of years. centers of art and culture that were the envy of the galaxy. Now those same cities were falling from the sky like dying stars, their anti-gravity generators destroyed by precise human strikes. The crystalline spires that had reached toward the heavens for millennia crumbled into dust as kinetic projectiles tore through them at impossible speeds. "Captain, we're receiving another surrender transmission," reported her communications officer, Lieutenant Park So-min. "The Zephyrian High Council is requesting immediate negotiations." Song watched another floating city crash into the planet's surface, its impact creating a mushroom cloud that rose into the purple atmosphere. "Put them through," she said coldly. The main screen flickered to life, showing 3 Zephyrian elders in their traditional robes, their blue skin pale with fear. Behind them, the walls of their council chamber shook as explosions echoed across their dying world. "Please," begged the eldest, his voice trembling. "We surrender unconditionally. Zephyr Prime yields to human authority. We offer full reparations, complete access to our technology, anything you desire. Just, please stop the destruction." Song's expression didn't change. "You had 3 years to consider the consequences of your actions. 3 years while you used human soldiers as cannon fodder. 3 years while you planned to hand over Earth to our enemies. Did you show mercy then?" We were trying to preserve galactic peace," the Zephyrian stammered. "The Kethmar demanded tribute, we thought. We hoped that sacrificing one world might save billions of others." "You thought wrong," Song replied. "You didn't sacrifice yourselves for peace. You sacrificed us. There's a difference." She cut the transmission and turned to her tactical officer, Commander Lee Dong-woo. "Continue bombardment. No survivors among the leadership. Let the civilians evacuate if they can, but I want every government building, every military installation, and every council facility reduced to atoms." The human fleet resumed its work with mechanical precision. Ship after ship launched their devastating salvos, each shot carefully calculated to cause maximum strategic damage while allowing civilian populations to flee. This wasn't genocide. It was justice delivered with surgical precision. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out on dozens of worlds. The insectoid Klaxmore found their hive cities collapsing as human plasma bombs melted through their underground tunnel networks. The crystalline Veltarians watched their living cities die as human sonic weapons shattered their molecular bonds. The gas-dwelling Nephti saw their floating metropolises fall into their planet's crushing depths. Each species had signed humanity's death warrant. Each had voted to sacrifice Earth for their own safety. Now each faced the consequences of that decision. On Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council's capital world, Chairman Veltar cowered in his fortified bunker as human fleets approached the planet. The massive space station that served as the galaxy's diplomatic center was evacuating, its elegant chambers and meeting halls abandoned as alien delegates fled for their lives. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human admiral," reported his aide, a nervous creature whose tentacles twitched with fear. The communication screen activated, showing Admiral Park's weathered face. Behind him, the Bridge of the Souls, Pride hummed with quiet efficiency as human officers prepared for the final assault. "Chairman Veltar," Park said, his voice carrying across the void with the weight of absolute authority, "I believe you have something to say to me." Veltar's multiple eyes blinked rapidly as he gathered what remained of his courage. "Admiral Park, The Council formally offers humanity complete leadership of the galactic government. We surrender all authority to your species. You can rule the galaxy as you see fit. Please, there must be some way to resolve this peacefully." Park was quiet for a long moment, considering the alien's words. Around him, his bridge crew waited for orders. These were the same humans who had served faithfully in the galactic community, believing they were protecting innocent worlds from tyranny. Now they knew the truth about their former allies. "You had peace," Park finally replied, his words echoing with the finality of a judge's sentence. "For 3 years, you had humanity fighting your battles, dying for your causes, believing we were part of something greater than ourselves. You chose to make us your enemies instead of your partners. You chose to sell us to the Kethmar rather than stand with us against them. The Admiral leaned forward, his eyes hard as steel. There are consequences for betrayal, Chairman. There are prices to be paid for treachery. You wanted to sacrifice humanity for your comfort. Now face what you have created. The transmission ended, and the human fleet began its final bombardment of Nexus Prime. The great space station that had governed the galaxy for millennia broke apart under the assault, its fragments spinning into the void like the dreams of 1,000 worlds. Captain Song Ji-hai received the news aboard the Busan's Wrath as her fleet finished with Zephyr Prime. The once beautiful world was now a graveyard of fallen cities and abandoned hopes. The few surviving Zephyrians had fled to distant colonies, carrying with them the knowledge that their ancient civilization had been reduced to ashes in a single day. "All fleets report mission completion," came Admiral Park's voice over the communication system. 137 Council worlds have been pacified, all government and military installations destroyed. Civilian populations have been allowed to evacuate where possible. Song looked out at the burning planet below, then at the tactical display showing human fleets scattered across the galaxy. In 6 months, they had accomplished what no military force in galactic history had ever achieved. They had systematically dismantled the most powerful alliance in known space, reducing its member worlds to ash and memory. The few surviving alien governments that had remained neutral during the betrayal sent desperate messages of friendship to Earth. They offered trade agreements, defensive pacts, and tribute payments, anything to avoid sharing the fate of the Council worlds. But humanity's response was always the same: respectful acknowledgement but no treaties. Earth would stand alone as it always had. The galaxy had proven that it couldn't be trusted with humanity's friendship, so it would learn to live with humanity's indifference. Years passed and new civilizations rose from the ashes of the old. The survivors told stories to their children about the time the galaxy betrayed the humans and what happened next. They spoke of worlds that burned for months, of fleets that appeared without warning to deliver justice without mercy, of a species that never forgot a betrayal and never forgave treachery. The galaxy learned a new truth in those dark years: never betray humanity, for they neither forgive nor forget, and their vengeance burns eternal.